sweeter now. You find it every day, girl. Wish that I could love you right in a special way, girl. You light my fire.
That's Uncle Charlie, and I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm thrilled to have you with us in this hour. I've been looking forward to this conversation. It's going to be a lot of fun. And our guest in this hour is Chaz Ebert. I always love that name, Chaz Ebert. She is the Ebert Digital CEO and joins us in this hour to talk about a number of things, including, of course, the legacy of her late great husband, celebrated film critic Roger Ebert, who I met on a few occasions, and her new book, It's Time to Give a FECK. I said it very slowly, make sure I didn't incur an FCC fine. It's time to give a FECK, F-E-C-K, elevating humanity through forgiveness, empathy, compassion, and kindness. I am pleased to welcome Chaz Ebert to this program. Chaz, how are you today?
I'm fine, Tavis. It's really great to be here with you, and I'm glad that you said the title of my book very carefully.
Yeah, I don't want no fines.
I think it's one of the things that the publisher at one point suggested maybe I should change the title, and we thought about doing it. We did a survey of about 200 people, and the overwhelming majority of them said, no, keep the title of the book. It really, once people know it's an acronym for forgiveness, empathy, compassion, and kindness, and not like the other four-letter words, people will get over it.
No.
So
there are a lot of four-letter words that I love, like love, for example.
Well,
love
okay.
and hope, love and hope.
Yes,
A lot of four-letter
hope.
words that I like. Yeah.
Absolutely. And in fact, I said my FECK is a four-letter word for love, another word for love. So,
no. Well, I'm glad we have the hour. We're going to unpack the book and talk about forgiveness, empathy, compassion, and kindness, all the things that the world seems to be lacking right about now. So we'll, the timing of the conversation could not, to my mind, Chaz, be more propitious, hence my comment earlier that I've been looking forward to this dialogue. Before I get into that, there are a few other things I want to take your temperature on. And the beautiful thing about this conversation is that, Chaz does so much stuff. And has done. She's a successful lawyer. She's a businesswoman. She's a producer. She has been very much involved in the DE&I conversation. And I think I want to start there. Again, we got an hour. We're going to cover a lot of ground. But let me start with this, because
Okay.
I haven't had a chance to get into this. And let me be honest. It's not I haven't had a chance to get into it. I didn't really care enough to get into it until I realized I was talking to you today. I said, well, I'll finally broach this subject, and I will ask Chaz Ebert about it. And I hadn't talked about it because I get so, frankly, tired of people just going off the rails. And I just, as a host of this program heard across the country, sometimes I don't want to give it any more energy than it already has.
I understand.
Yeah,
that,
but I want to raise this with you now because I know that you have a particular set of thoughts about it. So David Mamet was here in town the other day in L.A., and he slammed Hollywood's garbage DE&I initiatives. At the LA Times Festival of Books, playwright and filmmaker David Mamet went off. And this is his quote. He, of course, was lambasting the liberal establishment in Hollywood. Now, why does this matter? Because David Mamet was actually born on the south side of Chicago, where Chaz Ebert is.
He was actually a friend.
Yeah.
He was actually a friend. He and Roger were friends. I've met David Mamet. We actually did some work. I actually went to his house to film something one time, and we had good, decent conversations. I know that his views have changed over the years. He, at one point, was thought to be more of left of center on issues, but
no, well, and that's the point. So let me just set the frame, and then when we come forward, we'll get Chaz to unpack her thoughts on it. And I'm glad she jumped in. I figured there'd be a connection being from the South Side. So she and her late great husband Roger knew David Mamet. So David Mamet said the other day here in L.A. at the L.A. Times Festival of Books, and this is a quote, DEI is garbage. It's fascist totalitarianism. It's garbage. It's fascist totalitarianism. That's what David Mamet had to say the other day. Chaz, again, has done a lot of work in this space. And when you have somebody of David Mamet's stature come to Hollywood, come to L.A. at a festival of books, and just go off in that way. He ain't the first white male to do this. There have been others who are just chagrined by what the Academy has put in place with regard to these issues in the films that they nominate for Best Picture of the Year. I've often wondered how Roger Ebert might respond to this issue. But there are a number of white males and a few others, I suspect, in Hollywood pushing back on this. And that shouldn't surprise you, because all across the country, after the murder of George Floyd, everybody said they were going to do better by DE&I. Now everybody's done a 180. People are backing up on this thing like Michael Jackson doing the moonwalk. They're backing up on it. They're firing their DE&I personnel. We've done a 180 on this issue, and I want to get Chaz's take on that, given her work in that space. And then we'll talk about her book. We'll talk about Roger Ebert. A lot to talk about when we come forward with Chaz Ebert on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good.
Yeah, man.
Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
Hey y'all, Mona Swain here from Target's new YouTube series, My Cart is Full, where we feature Black founders and creators highlighting their connection to our community. As an actor and content creator, I love using my voice to inspire young Black women who look like me. When it comes to feeding my shine, seeing myself reflected in Black-owned and founded products at Target brings me joy. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Learn more at target.com/Black Beyond Measure.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler.
I'm Cookie Serratos and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze fruit on the go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Go, Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
It's the farewell tour. Maze featuring Frankie Beverly and KBLA wants to send you and the special mom in your life. Sunday, May 12th at the Kia Forum.
Make sure I'm right, girl, before I let go.
Also featuring soul icon Anthony Hamilton.
You the best of me. Amazing, amazing, amazing.
And After 7. It's a Mother's Day celebration you won't forget. Listen in for your chance to win tickets. And don't forget to wear white. It's the farewell tour with Maze featuring Frankie Beverly.
There's only a few days left for open enrollment, starting at $0 a month. LA Care Covered offers the benefits you need to achieve your health goals. $0 preventive services, 24/7 virtual care and nurse advice lines, walk-in minute clinics, free fitness and nutrition classes, and more. Become a member of LA's most affordable health plan. Get a free instant quote at lacarecovered.org. Have open enrollment questions? Connect with us today at 855-222-4239. Find your affordable path to wellness with LA Care Covered today.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Chaz Ebert, whose new book is called It's Time to Give a FECK, FECK, Elevating Humanity Through Forgiveness, Empathy, compassion and kindness. We'll get into the text as we move through this hour. But Chaz, your thoughts on those comments from David Mamet that I read a moment ago, in case, again, you've just tuned in. He called DE&I in Hollywood garbage and fascist totalitarianism. As I said, David Mamet isn't the only white male to complain. I'm thinking of Richard Dreyfuss. There have been others who've complained about these new rules, as it were, inside of Hollywood, certainly inside the Academy, when it comes to the films that they put on the list of potential winners during Academy season. But your thoughts broadly about DE&I in Hollywood and beyond.
Okay, I will respond broadly rather than specifically to the rules of the Academy. So my counterpoint is that when we're talking about diversity and equity and inclusion, we're talking about decency, respect, allowing those who have been sort of systematically excluded from the system to be included. What is wrong with that? I just don't see any downside in it. When you look at societies, the makeup of society, I say that DEI issues really reflect not only how we look at society, but how we begin to heal society and to make it more equitable. So I'm really trying to wrap my head around what is it that they find so terrible about saying you're going to that the Academy, for instance, if you look historically, well, I wasn't going to say the Academy. Let me just take a segment of society, because at one point I also was an attorney at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and I can tell you the statistics were there that when you looked in certain segments of society as far as employment was concerned, even though there were some places that were, let's say, almost 80-90% white males making the decisions or heading the groups, and some even a higher percentage. How can you tell me that it's garbage to open it up and say, hey, we know that there are people of, African Americans or Hispanic Americans or whatever who are qualified to hold these jobs. There must be some reason that they are not there. The people in the decision-making segment must be doing something. There's something. So I have actually seen it in practice with the statistics to bear it out. Now, that was a long time ago for me that I was there. I've been in more the executive seat for the last lots of years. And, excuse me, I'm sorry, even from this point, I think it's rubbish to say that DEI is rubbish. I don't want to make reduce it to that level, but I have no idea why people would be so angry about it.
Yeah, no, it is perplexing and not all at once. And it's the simple answer for me is that people feel that for others to have, then they have to be diminished. And the reality is, there's enough to go around, right? And
the pie is big enough for everyone to have a slice of it. It really is.
But they feel that if others don't get any love or respect, then somehow they are diminished. And some people want to just win, and they don't want a bunch of competition. They don't want more competition. They're struggling as it is trying to win. And so when you open the doors up to more competition, to greater talent, then it means they got to step their game up even more. So I digress on that, but I thought about those comments. I thought about Roger Ebert and what he might have to say about this particular moment in Hollywood, where there are forces, at least, that are pushing back on expanding the platform and including and involving other people. And because you've been in that space, I thought I would ask your point of view about it. So that's it.
Well, well, I wanted to say one thing. I know, for instance, that Roger, it was a really like I would say sort of a lifelong fight for him for inclusion, and he really did make a difference in helping in the film industry to bring along people of color, I will say. One of the things, I have a picture, Ava DuVernay sent us a picture of her when she was 8 or 9 years old, and her aunt took her to stand outside of the Shrine Auditorium when people were going in to rehearse for the Oscars, and she saw Roger Ebert, and she said, "Hey, that's the thumbs up man, come over." And he took a picture with Ava. She's 8 or 9 years old. She sent this to us, and when she did her first movie, Middle of Nowhere, I think, or I Will Follow, I forget which one it was, and so Roger wrote an article about his aunt taking him to movies and made a parallel between Ava and talked about how she was going to be one of the most important women in Hollywood, and he just saw that potential in her, as I do, and I think that what he said is being borne out, because one of the things I love about what Ava is doing, she reaches back and brings others with her. She doesn't say, "I'm here, I'm resting on my laurels." She did her company Array, and she opened up things to make more space for women and people of color in the film industry.
Yeah, she is establishing her legacy. No question about that. But back to Roger. What is your sense of what his legacy is? That's a great story about Ava being just a kid and running into Roger Ebert, and that's why I love photography is an amazing thing, right? It freezes these moments in time that we can celebrate years into the future. But when you think about your husband, your late great husband Roger Ebert, what do you think Roger's legacy is?
Well, I know some of the things that one of the things that he did that people may not know is he actually opened up the field for internet critics to become more democratic. At one time, there were only the critics who were accredited by the major newspapers, and those outlets were allowed to come to screenings, and Roger actually fought with the studios to allow internet critics on. Now, of course, you wouldn't exist without
exactly.
internet critics, but he's been gone 11 years, so the fight that this was a long time ago. It's funny. Somebody did an article saying, "Do you think Roger Ebert saw it into the future?" Because they had articles from like 1978 where he was talking about things that only became, things with what is it called? Some of the digital projection and so forth. Some things that he talked about as the future of movies before other people were even aware of them. And so somebody said, "Do you think he really had a telescope into the future?" And so sometimes I think about, and I actually do, well, just sometimes when I'm walking around, we'll ask out loud, what do you think of what's going on now? And is there anything from your bird's eye view up there that you can tell us to help us unify people? My mother was a spiritualist minister, Tavis, so sometimes I do, some of those teachings of the spiritualist church of just talking. They said, sometimes, they say that matter can't be created or destroyed. When we die, where do we go? What happens to it? So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's getting into a whole nother thing.
It is a whole nother thing. But I ain't mad at you for expressing your point of view in that regard. Let me move to your book. It's time to give a FECK. Elevating humanity through forgiveness, empathy, compassion, and kindness. Tell me first about the origins of the text before we get inside of it.
Okay, I'm so sorry, and I have to. I have asthma, and this morning, I don't know, something is bothering me. I don't know if it's
we'll get through it.
Something in the air,
we'll
allergy.
Get through it.
But every now and then, I may have to cough.
We'll get through it.
Just want to let you know that.
Yeah.
The origin of the book is first the E for empathy or Ebert. Roger said that movies were a machine that generates empathy and allowing you to put yourself into the shoes of another person for 2 hours so you know what it feels like to be a person of a different race or gender or socioeconomic status. And in that, empathizing with that person and their experiences. So empathy was something that he worked on all the time. in the field. It was when he was sick that I would get called upon to give speeches at cancer centers or at hospitals or at or maybe at the Cannes Film Festival. And one of the things that my topic was hope, when hope is a strategy, because I would say as long as you have hope, some people say, oh, you don't want to give people false hope. Sometimes false hope is better than no hope at all. And so when I started speaking on hope, I started seeing a lot of people who really, when you empathize with them, you begin having compassion for them. And I said, what is it that you want to do when you have compassion for someone? You want to help alleviate the suffering or pain of another. You want to help remove some of the obstacles or challenges they will have. And that's where the kindness comes in. Kindness is the action that you take when you feel compassion for someone. So, and then the forgiveness came two ways. One, when I met Archbishop Desmond Tutu in South Africa, and he was telling me about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and how he lost friends because of it, because they didn't want to have to forgive people who had done egregious acts under apartheid. But he and President Nelson Mandela realized in order for South Africa to move forward without bloodshed, there had to be a path to redemption. And so he told me, you forgive not only for the other person, but for yourself. It takes some of the burden off your shoulders and allows you to open up your heart to more light and love. And so that's where the forgiveness came. The other thing, forgiveness came from a movie that I had at the Ebert Film Festival called Disturbing the Peace. It was a movie about Israelis and Palestinians who formed an organization called Combatants for Peace, and they agreed to lay down their weapons against each other and try to unify some of the, some of the people in that area in the Middle East. And that was in 2016, and I thought about that after the October 7th attack in Israel, and I wondered what the Combatants for Peace are doing today. So when I saw that movie, I saw that coupled with what Archbishop Desmond Tutu said about forgiveness, I realized it's such a big, essential part of this thing about having compassion, empathizing, being kind. Forgiveness is big, and it's really hard for people to forgive.
I was going to say, it's not that any of these things are necessarily easy. I mean, you have to be. I'll put it this way. I've said this more than once. I don't believe that any of us ever comes into the fullness of our own humanity if we cannot respect and revel in the humanity of everybody else.
Absolutely.
You will never experience the fullness of your own humanity if you cannot respect and revel in the humanity of the other. So it's a tall order to begin with, and yet of all these things in this book title, forgiveness, empathy, compassion, and kindness, none of these things are necessarily easy. But the thing that trips people up, the thing that people have a hard time processing, is forgiveness. And so you went there, and I was going to go there. Why? I'm not a sociologist, and you're not either. We're neither trained sociologists, but in your work in this field, what have you discovered about why people have such a difficult time with that F word, forgiveness?
Yes, I think that it's part of human nature, but it is the biggest thing. When I wrote the book, there was a few things, but one of the instances of the Amish community, of the nickel mines community in Pennsylvania, when that, I think his name, I forget his name, but a gunman went in, told the boys to leave this one-room schoolhouse. He kept the girls and killed them. And I hate saying that, but that night before some of their children had even been removed from the floor, some of the people from that nickel mines Amish community went to the house of the woman whose husband had killed their children and told her they forgave him. They forgave him. I could not wrap my mind around that for a long time. And Roger and I would discuss that. And I would even cry when I thought about it because I thought, how could you do that? The church in South Carolina.
Yep.
More recently, when
Same
that guy
thing.
went in.
Yeah. Dylan Roof in South Carolina, and the same thing happened in Buffalo, where families forgave the shooter there. You recall the story in Texas where the black judge got up off the bench and went down into the courtroom to give the white former police officer a hug who'd walked in the wrong apartment and killed a man there in Texas. And so, there are stories, a plethora of stories. It is the human condition, I think, for many people to have a difficult time with forgiveness. On the flip side, there are those who will forgive in matters of extreme violence, and that's hard to wrap your brain around, too, to use Chaz's phrase. We'll talk more about that when we come forward. The book is called It's Time to Give a FECK, Elevating Humanity Through Forgiveness, Empathy, Compassion, and Kindness. The author of that book is Ebert Digital CEO Chaz Ebert. More with the Chaz when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Philips Healthcare is agreeing to a $1.1 billion settlement following lawsuits and recalls over its CPAP sleep apnea machines. The FDA said it had received more than 100,000 reports on problems with the insulating foam in the devices, including more than 500 reports of death. The affected devices were sold between 2008 and 2021, that according to Philips' summary of the settlement. Vice President Kamala Harris visited Atlanta, Georgia yesterday. Her planned stop was in coordination with the kickoff of what's being called the Economic Opportunity Tour. She discussed small business investments and minority-owned businesses. The White House says the tour reflects President Biden and Vice President Harris's commitment to invest in all of America. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hey, it's Dean Sharp. How does 3 months of free electricity and a lifetime of energy savings sound? Well, it's yours when you go solar with Sunlux. Learn more at sunlux.com, sunlux.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Denver Nuggets guard Jamal Murray did it again last night. He hit another game-winning shot against the Lakers in the first-round playoff series. This one sent the Lakers home after 5 games and ignited another offseason of questions and uncertainty for the franchise. Murray shook off a strained calf muscle to score 13 of his game-high 32 points in the fourth quarter. LeBron did all he could do, 30 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds in 44 minutes. After the game, LeBron was asked if he has any thoughts in his mind that he could have played his last game as a Laker. LeBron paused for about 10 seconds before saying, "I'm not going to answer that question." LeBron put the mic down and walked out of the media room. There's also chatter in the streets that Darvin Ham may have coached his last game with the Lakers. Stay tuned. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, home of the 2024 Climate Justice Campaign.
Clark Pest Control is California's leader in pest control technology. If you need help getting rid of pests, mosquitoes, termites, and much more, call Clark Pest Control for a free estimate today. Dial 1-800-WE-NEED-YOU or visit clarkpest.com. That's clarkpest.com.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley continuing his conversation with Chaz Ebert, who is the author of the book, It's Time to Give, a FECK, Elevating Humanity Through Forgiveness, Empathy, Compassion, and Kindness. Chaz is also the CEO of Ebert Digital, and of course that last name Ebert rings a bell. It's because she was married to the late great Roger Ebert for a long time. A great film critic, and Roger was just a great guy, and we're honored to have Chaz on this program. Chaz, back to the book. We were talking about forgiveness before we had to step aside for a few moments. Tell me more about your journey. Putting this book together, and for that matter, just your journey in life, and what you've learned about this notion of forgiveness. You were making the point, and I echoed, that we see these moments where there's extreme pain, extreme violence, to your point, whether it's in Mother Emanuel Church in South Carolina or that supermarket in Buffalo. But you see these moments where black folk, and not just black people, you gave earlier examples as well, people beyond our community who forgive in the most heinous of situations. How do you read that? What's your take on that?
So my take on it is that, when you carry around a lot of thoughts of, let's say, hatred or intolerance or violence or just a need for revenge, that it makes you feel like a victim. And that's the thing that Archbishop Tutu was telling me. Mm-hmm. If you want to get rid of some of the feeling of victimhood and you want to take charge of your own life again, if you want to take charge of your own thoughts, it was really hard for me at first to really learn this, although Roger was also a person who could not only forgive but forget. Mm. I, on the other hand, before doing all of this work with the book, was more one, I'm from the west side of Chicago. I wanted if you do something to me, I want to get revenge, and I'm not that person anymore. Yeah. But it's not easy, and I didn't want to only use the big instances like South Africa or the Mother, the AME
Mother Emanuel,
Episcopal
yeah,
Church
sure.
in in South Carolina. I want people to know that it can be little things in your life, can be little things that you may have to forgive people for, and it still allows you to move forward. And like I said, to not feel like you're a victim, to take control of your own life again, and maybe to have some grace with the other person. One of the instances that I mentioned in the book is I had a big disagreement with a friend over Colin Kaepernick. And we had been friends. We were on a women's committee together, and this committee used to take trips together. I always thought she was, warm and funny and compassionate. But when Colin Kaepernick took a knee, she thought, oh, that's a disgrace. He's being so unpatriotic, and he's turning his back on our flag and our troops. I said, no, that's not how I see it at all. He knows that he's a celebrity, and he has a platform that he can use to advocate for others. I think what he's doing is extremely patriotic. We were so far apart on the issue, we thought that we would not really speak anymore. The next time we had a gathering of this particular group to work on issues, when we saw each other, we both realized something that the years before, when we had been friends, we weren't talking about politics. We were talking about a lot of things that I think that she was fundamentally a different person than she was the previous years I knew, and she came to the same conclusion. No, we were the same people that we actually liked before. How can we close that gap? And we just agreed to civilly disagree, and we became friends again. It's not that we were ever not friends, but before it was uncomfortable to think about seeing her. I wish that there was some way that we could do this, go to Congress and close those gaps, because it is killing our country. It really is.
No.
And go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. But to your point about Congress, I was just going to move to that other word. So the FECK, F-E-C-K, stands for forgiveness, empathy, compassion, and kindness. We've talked about forgiveness. I want to move to that empathy part, because one of the things that is also difficult for many of us to do is to be empathetic. That is to say, to put yourself in the shoes of the other, to try to see the world through the prism of the other. And there are many of us who have mastered the sympathy thing. We can do sympathy, but we can't do empathy. And as you well know, having written the book, they're not the same thing. And when you mention Congress, part of what's wrong with Congress, and God knows there's a long list of things wrong with Congress, but part of what's wrong is that I don't sense that on the part of our leadership nationally, and I could do this locally and regionally, but there are too many people who have found their way into leadership positions for a variety of reasons, but they don't really have the capacity to be empathetic. They cannot put themselves in the shoes of the other. So one, they end up not passing, they end up supporting legislation that doesn't consider the least among us. They end up not being able to understand the journey that other people are walking. They end up being, frozen in their own viewpoint about the world and how to navigate it, because they can't find a way to be empathetic, to put themselves in the position of others. And that's a problem across that's a problem across the board. But since you mentioned Congress, it's a problem, certainly, it seems to me, when it comes to those elected leaders in Washington. They're just not empathetic enough.
Yes, and that's one of the things that I don't know if you remember this. I think it was John McCain when he lost the election, and people were trying to say that Barack Obama wasn't born in this country, and he said, no, I'm going to stop that now. He is our president, and I want everyone to rally behind him. Those days, where are the days when people can just be decent? We have to really look at who we're electing to office, and not just starting at the national level. We really have to look at the local level. And if we see that we are not electing people who have empathy and respect and a decency for other people, we need to actually, go to the polls and vote them out. Tavis, I want you to jump in here because maybe I shouldn't have said that. But
No.
But I do think you have to look at, you have to have empathy if you're going to be a leader in the country. You have to be a game changer, not someone who is bitter and angry and vindictive.
Yep. No, I think you're right about all of that. The larger point that connects to that is a political issue that I won't pull you into. I'll say this, and we'll continue when we come forward. But part of what's wrong with Congress, and frankly, is a threat to our very democracy, or this experiment in democracy, is the issue of gerrymandering. So you get these people in, and you can never get them out. And so if you get people in who lack empathy, they lack compassion, they're not kind, then you end up where we are in the history of this country. But it's gerrymandering that's at the center of all that. You get these people in, and there's just no way to get them out. They perennially get reelected, and so you see this stalemate in Washington, which plays itself out in a variety of ways. I digress on that for now. More with Chaz Ebert when we come forward. The book is called It's Time to Give a FECK, Elevating Humanity Through Forgiveness, Empathy, Compassion, and Kindness. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley. Ranked number 45 on the Heavy 100 list of the 100 most important radio talk show hosts in America.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Fight climate change. This Earth Day, April 22nd, go Metro and ride for free. You'll make a difference. Metro buses run on clean energy, making every day Earth Day. Together, we can clear the air and connect our communities. Start your journey at metro.net.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of Chaz Ebert coming your way right now. The book is called It's Time to Give a FECK, Elevating Humanity Through Forgiveness, Empathy, Compassion, and Kindness. We've talked about forgiveness. We've talked about empathy. Let's talk about compassion, Chaz Ebert, and why that made your list.
Okay, and I wanted to go back to another thing in empathy, though, because
Sure.
we talked about George Floyd, and one of the things that that really resonated with me was Mamie Till Mobley when her son Emmett Till was killed. Back then, it was the mother's love and for her son, allowing him to be viewed in an open casket that I think created empathy, not sympathy, but really empathy in news gatherers who said it's someone who would have normally probably not covered his funeral as widely as they did, but not only between Ebony and Jet, but all of the major broadcasters and newspapers at a time in the 1950s when this normally would not have happened. What she did and what she stood up for her son made people put themselves in her shoes and identify with her. And that's why what her actions were a precursor to the civil rights movement.
Indeed they were. Compassion. Talk to me, Chaz Ebert.
Well, compassion is what you feel after you empathize with someone. When you have compassion for someone, you want to help alleviate their pain and their suffering. And that's where kindness comes in. Kindness is the action that you take when you feel compassion about someone. You know, one of the things that I couldn't believe, the Damar Hamlin incident, the football player who had that cardiac arrest on the field, and he was in a different city. I think he was in Cincinnati when he, playing the game and football, and all of the people, the compassion that was shown to him from the people who were on an opposing team was just really something that stirred my heart and gave me hope for the world, gave him hope too. His organization, he had started a charitable organization. I think people made contributions of probably somewhere between $1 and $3 million, like almost immediately, because they wanted to see him move forward with the work if he survived. He did survive, and he did continue moving forward with his work. And I think compassion and kindness really go hand in hand, because if you can really, once you empathize with someone, put yourself in their shoes, and you feel the compassion for them, Yeah.
It's called It's Time to Give a FECK. The book is Elevating Humanity Through Forgiveness, Empathy, Compassion, and Kindness. The author of that book is Chaz Ebert. Our remaining moments with her when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Seeking the truth, speaking the truth. This is the Tavis Smiley Show.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the Amera I Can Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the Amera I Can program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera I Can Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriICanCommunity.partners. That's AmeriICanCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Lowe's knows pros need the right tools for every job. That's why we sell the largest in-store selection of Klein tools anywhere. Find new items launching exclusively at Lowe's, like the self-leveling laser level for just $159.98. Plus, shop the Connect socket set for just $49.98. Get Klein tools in-store and online today. Because Lowe's knows tools. Lowe's knows pros.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
So, Chaz, I got about 3 minutes left here. Tell me how you intend to use the book. Is this a training tool? Is this a group for people to have sessions around to discuss these issues? How do you hope the book is going to be used?
Okay, really quickly. First of all, there are journaling pages in the book at the end of each chapter.
Yes.
So that if you want to learn how to be more compassionate, more kind, more empathetic, there are tools that help you do that. Secondly, we are making a video series called The Many Faces of FECK. Well, will be interviewing people. I've interviewed, for instance, Candace Payne of Chicago, who took her own credit cards when the weather was 30 degrees below zero to get the homeless off the street so they wouldn't freeze. She was not a rich person, just an average woman, but she had so much empathy and compassion and kindness that she did that. Roderick Duncan in Memphis, Tennessee, who had there was a man named Brian Taylor who used to sleep in the car outside of his God body gym, and he wanted to call the police, but he said, I'm going to take this guy a cup of coffee and just talk to him. He discovered the guy was going through a really hard time. He really helped this guy get rehabilitated, get him off, I think he maybe had some addictions, and they formed it was a ripple effect of the good that they did. Terrence Lester in Atlanta, who during the pandemic, when people were saying you couldn't even shake hands, you had to wash your hands, he said, wait a minute, the guys out on the street, they have nowhere to go to wash their hands. How are they going to do things? He started putting up these portable hand washing stations all around Atlanta. Other people read about him and started doing it around in other cities in the country. So I want to create a ripple effect of people giving a FECK. And I would like to actually start some FECK dinners where I have people of different political persuasions sitting around a table and eating and talking and coming up with concrete things of how we can move forward toward more unity and love in this society.
Yep. No, those are all great ideas. I think everything starts with conversation. And if you can establish platforms where people can have those kinds of gatherings, those kinds of conversations to address these issues, I think it's a great idea. I was at a gathering here in L.A. a few weeks ago, a group here called Days of Dialogue, and they literally invite citizens from across the spectrum to come to these gatherings, and they always serve food, of course. That always helps bring people in.
Yes, absolutely.
They serve great food, but you sit around these tables and you engage in these days of dialogue about a variety of subject matter. There are facilitators at each table, but it's a pretty amazing thing. It's a pretty amazing thing when you actually bring people together and give them a chance across a table of divergent voices and viewpoints to discuss these issues. It makes a difference. And so I think that
absolutely
you got a great idea there. And if you can pull that off, yeah.
I wanted to just mention one thing because you mentioned L.A. I will be at Book Soup.
Yes, I was going there.
My book on June 3rd.
I was going there.
Okay.
No. We're actually heard across the country. So I'm going to run the list right quick of a number of places she's going to be. Are you? I assume you're okay if I do that, Chaz. If I promote your book signings, I assume you're okay with that.
Do.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Do.
That's what I thought. She's at Anderson's in Chicago. WVON. Love you, Chicago. She's at Anderson's in Chicago on May 2nd at 7 p.m. She's at Neiman Marcus Troy in Detroit on May 3rd at 5:30. At Hummingbird Books in Boston on May 9th. Book Soup here in L.A., as she just mentioned, on June the 3rd at 7 p.m. And Powell's in Portland on June 9th at 3 p.m. So she's crisscrossing the country talking about the book and why it's time for us to give a FECK, Elevating Humanity Through Forgiveness, Empathy, Compassion, and Kindness. Chaz Ebert, congrats on the book and more importantly on the work you've been doing for a lot of years. The book is just a byproduct, just a result of the work that you and Roger started many years ago, you and Roger Ebert. So congrats on the book. Good to have you on this program and all the best to you.
Thank you. I've always enjoyed your conversation. So
I'm delighted to have had you on in this one. Thank you, Chaz. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Philips Healthcare is agreeing to a $1.1 billion settlement following a lawsuit